Welcome, listeners, to Gamer Headlines' Spoilercast. As the name suggests, Spoilercast is an in-depth discussion of all the best and worst story moments in a recently released title. I am one of your co-hosts, Adnan Riaz. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Cortez.
Cock host. No, I'm kidding. Hi, guys. I don't know
we
where I was going with that.
This is our second time recording. We've lost our great Bee Gees moment.
Yeah.
Recording.
We had such an awesome bit of banter, and it got lost because on Acton's side, all of a sudden there's like Christmas music that got progressively louder and louder and louder, and Adnan's like, "Can you hear that?" I'm like, "Absolutely," and he's like, "God damn it, some asshole in a Santa costume."
I couldn't be more critical of Lara Croft's dad with that music. I was like, it's just not appropriate.
You were so working it, though. You were like, Lara Croft's father, very important. God damn it! What the fuck is that? So yeah, this is our second. I don't think we can bottle the Bee Gees thing again. I sang Bee Gees, though. That was pretty funny. We
so did I as well. It's great.
We both sang Bee Gees. We'll do it again one day. We'll do a duet. Whole spoiler cast on Bee Gees. But I guess this is funny. We already said this already. But Adnan, I guess we should start with how we always start these things. Kind of giving our general, not giving too much away, but our general feelings on, like the story. Did you like it, the story?
Underwhelming at the end. I feel like the narrative loses focus at some points, and that's kind of its biggest weakness because in what Tomb Raider is and like what has always been, it's very Indiana Jones, and that's not obviously just comparing the fact that Lara Croft and Indiana Jones are, archaeologists, Tomb Raiders, whatever you want to, refer to them in any kind of capacity. It's the fact that those stories tend to be character pieces that are driven by a variety of subplots, and also like there's one universal main story arc that brings everything together in full wrap. It's what makes Raiders of the Lost Ark such a great film when you watch it, because so much that's tying in with it. But this one feels weighted on so many sides that it kind of brings down Lara Croft a little bit, because it's like, when it opens up and you have all the different places where she's going to Syria, she goes to Syria first, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Where she goes.
Like a prologue, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, the prologue. There's some great moments in it. It's kind of a great, belief of who it is. Like Lara Croft is, looking into her dad's work, probably one of her biggest inspirations, and like how his name's kind of been tainted by history, and like she's going to try and redeem that. But at the same time, like that story kind of like slowly dilutes very far into the main story, and you hear very little of him. Like I think when you get to the base camps, that's later on in the game, really late in the game. That's when you hear from him again.
Yeah.
And they have like a few flashbacks at the beginning of the game, but they don't really kind of do much for the game, because I think like flashbacks for me are very cheap in a way that, unless you can do it like Lost, which I hold very highly for TV, and the fact that Lost, there's some great moments because it has the fact that a flashback is a very, very effective way of telling a story about each character, because it ties with the present. There's never about the fact that it's just a flashback for the sake of, telling a story about this character that I don't care about. It's about showing how that has shaped them in the present, the past, the future. It's always changing. That's kind of like what the inside of Lost does so great. But this was very like, oh yeah, and he shoots himself, and so she thinks he shoots himself, and this happens and that happens. It's just a little bit kind of like, right, okay. But like, and then also the fact of like, I just feel like with this game as well, it didn't feel like a sequel. Like it because again, drawing with Indiana Jones doesn't necessarily have to feel like a sequel, because obviously those films are doing different orders as well. Like it's a normal film, then it's a prequel, then it's a sequel. With Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and what was it called? What's the last one called?
Last Crusade.
Yeah. Last Crusade. Yeah, that's one. Those three is an example of that, like how it's different, like how it's told at different points. But this one just doesn't really embrace the fact of like that first game. It touches on it, yes. It shows things, but for me, like, and obviously it's not like living up to my expectations, I thought the second game would challenge psychologically Lara Croft becoming a Tomb Raider or an archaeologist and trying to really, shape her life around everything that happened in her first experience. Because that's what I felt like with the trailers, the early trailers with the psychologists and stuff. I thought that's where the game was going to go really into its deepest and darkest moments. But it's like, we're going to explore the mind of Lara Croft. And we haven't done that, because I think that's probably one of the biggest wasted potentials of the series in a whole, is the fact that Lara Croft is just... she's a rich British girl who's an archaeologist and whatever else. There's no real kind of like essence of who she is, why she does this, like, how and like what's the joy of like becoming a Tomb Raider and risking your neck and everything else. There's no real development on that for me personally seeing it, and that's why I felt like Rise of the Tomb Raider was going to be that story where it's like, yeah, she's the Tomb Raider she's going to become, but at the same time psychologically these are going to happen. Saying that, even if I do say flashbacks are cheap or whatever else, it would be more interesting to show those in terms of the first game to give some kind of continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like at certain points, if she has a flashback, like she almost falls off a cliff, it's just like reminiscent of like a scene from the first film. Then you can be like, oh shit, like not even in a flashback way, but kind of like touching on those areas. But that was kind of for me my general impressions of it.
Damn, that was the most epic general impressions I've ever heard.
The best part is I didn't lose my voice during it, so that's kind of like a strong sign that I am becoming a Tomb Raider as well. And my health is improving.
Well, my general impressions are considerably shorter, but I no, dude, for me, I agree with a lot of what you said. You covered a lot of grounds that I agreed with as well. To be honest, man, like I know we're not going to talk about gameplay too much because we focus on story, but I found myself more interested in the gameplay than the story. Like I felt like the story. Yeah, like the story was getting in the way of me enjoying just, messing around the game. Which is ironic because I actually didn't do the side quests or anything. Like, I just did the main quest.
We won't dig too much into that, but at the same time, I wanted to point this out. This game has very much an Order 1886 syndrome, and the fact that there's set pieces everywhere. Do you know, it's going to take you into an area of combat, and it's kind of like, where you lift up your gun, and it's like that scene where it's like, yeah, you got an enemy wave coming. And you kind of like, really? Are you doing that? Like, I'm walking into an area where there's going to be enemies with, like, full prediction of knowing what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it gives you a lot more freedom than Order. I've never played Order, but from what I've heard...
I haven't played Order. Obviously, I haven't played Order, but what I've seen and read and everything else, I agree with, like, kind of like just a loose kind of, like, comparison. I found that was kind of thing where I was like, oh, like, come on, am I really walking? Uncharted is the same syndrome as well, because it's like, yeah, I'm doing this puzzle, and then it's like, all of a sudden you have cover slots everywhere, and it's just like, look at you like, right, okay, it's like, combat's going to arise, and it's like, and you're like, right.
But yeah, going back, so I really dug the gameplay. I thought it was really cool how everything connected with each other. Storyline-wise, yeah, like, and we kept talking about this, actually, on like, other... Like, we would talk about this while we were playing the game, where the teaser trailer they showed for the game, where it was Lara talking to, like, a psychiatrist, and, like, it showed her kind of, like, living in the wilderness and refusing to, like, live at home because of the adventure she had. Like, they so did not go that route with this game. Like, Lara is actually quite fine in the game. There is no psychological trauma with her or anything. I mean, she still wants to do adventures and stuff like that, but I thought like the emotionality, her becoming more distant with sociability and becoming more of like almost an animal would have been a very interesting route to go, especially considering how the first game ends, with her state of being. And I felt like you said, like, dude, this does not feel like a sequel. Like, it's like they dropped that completely, and they just said, fuck it, like, we're just going to tell another story, and she's already... Like, I feel like there's a game in between the last Tomb Raider and this one that should have explored that, and they didn't make that game, and they skipped that whole part,
This is almost like Rambo with the name titles. Do you imagine what the first... Because it's going to be quite weird, though, because Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then something else. Right. You kind of feel a little bit like...
Yeah,
you want to flip Rise of the Tomb Raider, like... Yeah, it's kind of that thing where you're like...
You have to look it up on Wikipedia and be like, what order do I play these fucking games? Reboot, remake, fuck. But yeah, that being said, I did... I have to praise the acting, though. I didn't like the story. I didn't care much for the script. I didn't care much for overall what happened. But the acting was fucking top notch, and man, she does not get enough credit. But Camilla Luddington really like brings a lot. She brings a lot of vulnerability, but also a lot of like, let's kick some ass, you know what I mean, type things. She does a broad range of emotions with Lara, and I don't and in the first game, and very much so in the second game, actually more so I feel in the second game, and they didn't really. I feel like she doesn't get enough credit outside of the game.
Yeah, I feel like this is an example where the actor has saved the script, because I don't think the script is that brilliant.
Yes,
because when you listen to some of the dialogue, you're like, you kind of like, people don't talk like this. So if you're going to talk like this, it's not really kind of like brought out like the real kind of emotion. And a lot of it is down to Camilla Lunnington, because you do see moments of there's this, there's this person that's scared at points, but there's also this person that's embracing the challenge, rising above the occasion, etc., etc.
Right.
And she does really great with her voice acting to pull that off. And yeah, she's completely, underlooked and criminally underrated by everyone. But at the same time, again, it's about the release window as well. A lot of people haven't played this game.
Oh, yeah.
It's a timed exclusive. Her praises and everything else might just be like completely fading away at the minute. And people think about it differently when it comes out on PS4 and PC and whatever else. But
I'd be curious about that, because that's PC's next, I think, like in the next quarter 1, and then PS4. It's probably going to come out like a year from now, like around like November 2016, like something like that.
Yeah, definitely. But I think she is definitely a stellar performance throughout. Kind of strange that she's not
best part of the game, like story wise. Best part, yeah.
Definitely agree with that as well. I think she's got great things. She's the kind of person who has a great voice at just narrating.
Yeah.
If like Tomb Raider was going to use that kind of like narration of like Lara telling a story from like almost from third person, like here's this and that, it's like, and just like narrating over a lot of the dialogue, she does it really well, and she's got a great voice for it. But again, this is the other thing as well. The supporting cast around her isn't brilliant.
No, they're so boring.
Voice acting, they're all right. But it's again writing this, and the character development. I just don't really care about them.
It's like the first game. Remember, we spoke about, we did Why You Should Play a few months ago on Tomb Raider, and like the supporting cast was so boring, and we were saying, man, I hope for the sequel they have better supporting cast members. And no, they were not. They were either boring archetypes that we've seen before, or they just, like, you didn't care about them. You're just like, whatever, man. Like, remember, spoiler, but remember when her friend Jonah gets kidnapped or whatever? I didn't care.
Yeah,
I didn't care.
That reminded me of Arkham Knight, where he's like, "Leave me, Lara." I'm like, I'm tempted to use right now. So actually, when Riddler goes into Gray's like, ha ha ha, you'll need to get 250 trophies to get me. I'm like, bye. Like, do you know what the funny part is? I didn't even go back to play the game because I'm like, I don't care. So I'm not going doing a scavenging mission to finish this final part of the story. Fuck that. Do not force side missions down people's throats, because it is annoying, but. Obviously, it's completely different because it's part of the main story.
Right.
But
I didn't care.
Jonah goes, I'm just like, no. And the thing is, Jonah disappears for 3/4 of the game. Like, he just disappears. He's with Lara and that.
He's gone. He's gone, he comes back, and then he gets kidnapped again. You're like, alright, whatever. Like, you just don't care.
Oh, yeah. But one of the best things was, though, is the set pieces are brilliant for it.
Yes.
When you do the when like destruction's happening, she's running through it, and climbing the mountains of Siberia, and just like everything is just
empowering, like super empowering.
Yeah, it's great, and it's even great with the tombs that you like raid as well. And you go in there, and it's just like the set piece where it shows the location. It's like the souls of the lost, whatever. It's like you just see the city or whatever it is. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's a really iconic like Tomb Raider style of like the historical pieces, the architecture, everything else about it. Lovely to look at, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. What by the way, I want to ask you. I was I thought they were gonna take more of an Uncharted 2 route, where if you remember in the first Uncharted and in the first Tomb Raider, both Nathan and Lara are kind of stuck in like one location for the whole game, and then in the sequel, at least to Uncharted 2, like he went to a bunch of different places, and in Rise of the Tomb Raider, we started off in Siberia, and I thought, oh man, this is so fucking cool, like we're probably gonna go to like a bunch of different places. But then after Siberia, and you go to what is it?
Is it Syria then Siberia?
Oh, sorry, right. Yeah, you start off in Syria and then you head to Siberia. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, we're just, it's two places. That was more of like a prologue to get you going with like what are the things of the game. That kind of disappointed me a bit. I thought we were gonna go to like a few places.
At least Square is not like Konami and taking it into a glorified tech demo.
2.5 maps.
The prologue to MGS5. No, I agree, but at the same time I don't. I think because it's that one location. She's just going to that one place. Her objective is set there. Mm-hmm. I think they did that intentionally. I don't think they wanted people to go to because she's not really like Nathan Drake, where he's like running from city to city and whatever else. She's like on a path to find it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when Dr. Jones goes for like obviously he goes to more locations, but when he goes to Cairo, he figures out where this is. He goes to that place and looks for it.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
it felt like this felt more like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where like there's that intro, and then like you say, he's kind of stuck in that one place for a while, and then Rise of the Tomb Raider felt more. I'm sorry, the original Tomb Raider felt more like Temple of Doom, where Indy's stuck in like one place the whole time, and that always like I liked it more like again to make a comparison to like, you compared Indiana Jones and Lara earlier, but in Last Crusade. Like that game, man, you go everywhere in that game. It even opens with like a flashback of him as a kid and shit. And I was hoping that they would do something like that well, maybe they will in the third game. Maybe they'll open with like young Lara and she gets she gets her hat at the end. It makes no sense. Can you imagine that? Like, I love this hat, Jonah. I've always had it my whole life. It's like, no, you haven't. Like, but yeah, I mean, I got used to it after a while, and I have to say, Siberia, there was a lot of like like you were in the snow, and then you're like in like temples and tombs and stuff. So they did have a lot of variety, even though it was that one place you were stuck in. It just everything was all connected. So there was a lot more variety than in the first game, where it was just jungles and it kind of got boring after a while.
yeah, completely agree with that. I can see where you're coming from. I think we were expecting a bit too much, but also at the same time, it's not an open world game, like hugely open world. I think they wanted to set it in a certain place, keep it this, and then you can fast travel the base camp system that they kept in there from the previous game. So I understand why they kept it in that one location. I think it would have made things unnecessarily complicated by going to
That's true.
4 different locations. So she's just chasing thin air as we are as well, like just trying to learn the story.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe probably the best decision not to. I think like one of the best things for me, obviously, this kind of game that the opening is absolutely amazing and cinematically and everything else on that mountain. I think like for me, obviously, as someone who loves history, I love the fact that there's a lot of artifacts to pick up, and obviously it's a little bit more tedious as well. Again, like you always like examine that item to find a hidden detail. It's like okay, but I like the recordings. I love the fact that when they tell you the story about the prophet. And they keep digging the idea of like, I think there's a very fascinating collection of tapes where it's like the prophet does this. It's like there's someone else who's claiming to be the prophet, and he looks different, but at the same time maybe he doesn't look different. I'm telling you that actually because it's because an account from a certain person following the prophet. You're like, interesting. And saying that, like when I got to Jacob, and like, so I was like, okay, whatever. And I completely forgot. I just didn't even realize he was the prophet. I was just like, wait, what? I was like, when he told me, I was like, oh yeah. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
That kind of it was more like you had to kind of piece it together yourself, and
yeah.